Greetings, YouTube. So, Feces Rex has rescinded the Obama administration protections for trans teens in schools, or trans kids in schools. Um, and now the states are going to decide where trans kids get to use, or which bathrooms they get to use. We haven't had any actual problems with trans kids causing issues in bathrooms. We have had trans kids harassed and assaulted because they are trans. But apparently, the current administration doesn't care if that happens. They're disinterested whatsoever. Their interest is apparently to keep children safe. Not trans kids, they don't give a fuck about them, but, the cisgender kids, the real kids. There's also a bill in Texas, I believe at the time of this video being recorded, which is the 24th, the bill has not yet been signed into law. But the bill is all about making sure, how you enforce this, I do not know, but making sure that a person uses the bathroom that it aligns with what their birth certificate says with the gender they were assigned at birth. So if your birth certificate at birth was you were assigned male, you would then use the men's room. If you were assigned female, you would use the women's room. Um, and the reasoning behind this, and I'm using the absolute loosest definition of the word reasoning that is possible. The reasoning behind this is they're afraid that cisgender heterosexual men will dress in a feminine manner to invade women's rooms so that they can molest children and women. Now, there's never been anything to stop a man from doing that in the past. Nothing. And there isn't anything about that now that's going to stop them. And this bill isn't going to stop them if it becomes a law. Nothing will stop a cisgender heterosexual man from dressing in a feminine manner and sneaking into a woman's room for the purposes of molestation or rape. Now, we already have laws against sexual assault and rape. They're already on the books. And sometimes we even enforce them. So this bill actually isn't going to make anyone safer at all. What it will do, however, is it's going to force men into the women's room, and it's going to force women into the men's rooms. And the men that are forced into the women's rooms are going to cause all kinds of hassles. They're going to get security called on them. They're going to get cops called on them. And it's going to cause incredible amounts of stress and harassment for these men because this law says that they have to go into the women's room. And the women that are forced into the men's rooms will face harassment, sexual assault, and murder. Now, this isn't some random prediction. I didn't whip out my crystal ball, of which I own. No, this is based on what's actually happened in the past. Trans women, particularly black trans women, suffer incredible levels of harassment, sexual assault, and murder because cisgender heterosexual men are just incredibly and unbelievably fragile little snowflakes. They are convinced that every single trans woman in the world is some kind of sleeper agent so that a man will inadvertently rub up against a penis. That seems to be their reasoning. So these laws aren't about protecting anyone because they don't seem to be concerned about women molesting girls in bathrooms or men molesting boys in bathrooms. They don't give a crap about that. They have this trans straw man they've constructed, and they've convinced themselves that if they pass this law, somehow that's going to make everything safer and better. Now, what this is another example of social conservatives desperately needing someone to demonize. Now, they lost on the gay marriage front. So now they're persecuting trans people. It's a smaller minority. There's fewer of them. There are fewer supporters for them. So it's an easier group to pick on and to abuse. It's not hard to paint trans people to other social conservatives as being something outside the norm. Reasonable people who aren't terrified of every single thing around them, understand that trans folks just want to friggin' pee. They go in the bathroom, they do their business, they wash their hands, and they leave. Just like everybody else does. And again, I'm still not sure what straight men seem to think what goes on in women's rooms. No one is showing off vaginas in there, folks. I have a horrible piece of news to tell you about that. There is no striptease going on in that bathroom. It's just people doing their business, voiding their bodily wastes, and leaving. This bill is about harassing trans people, about demonizing a minority because the social conservatives must have a minority to demonize. They are desperate for it. Because if there was no one to demonize, they might be forced into the uncomfortable position of actually having to contemplate their own unreasonable, incredible anxieties and fears. And they would rather do anything than face the reality that they are the cause of their own problems. That it is their artificially created fears of the world around them from their toxic patriarchal worldview. So rather than deal with their own problems, they externalize it. They project it to the world around them. Find a target and go after them. Because that witch hunt keeps them from having to think about how empty and how twisted and toxic their own personal narrative is. Social conservatism is utterly immoral. And this law in Texas and the protections that were just rescinded by feces rex are equally immoral. Everyone has the right to be safe in public. Whether you're straight or queer, whether you're transgender or cisgender, you have the right to be able to use public restrooms and be safe. But social conservatives don't care about that. They don't care how many trans people are harassed or assaulted or killed. They do not give a crap. Because in the eyes of the social conservatives, trans people aren't real people. Trans people are. They're just like you and I, and they just want to get through their day. And social conservatives are preventing that. So screw you, social conservatives. We don't need you. You are an impediment to our social progress. You are standing in the way. There's an old saying, lead, follow, or get out of the way. You're definitely not leading us forward into the future in a progressive manner. You're not willing to follow progressive thought. So guess what, social conservatives? Get out of the way.